God begins to reveal himself in the work of creation. First he made the earth, and then he made humanity, God's finest handiwork. He breathed into humanity the breath of life and made humanity Lord of all creation. He created for humanity a garden of delight in which there was peace and security. Living was a pleasure, free from toil, and according to God's original plan, man and woman were never to know death. What is of greatest significance is that God showed himself a loving Father. He walked with humanity and deigned to speak with him. The creation of the world. God, a living being, all sufficient and happy in himself, had no beginning. He always was. Nothing existed but God alone. And then, according to his plan, God's goodness broke out in a creative act, and at that moment time was born. As the Bible describes this moment, it pictures an unformed mass of earth, waste and empty, and darkness hanging over the abyss. And above the waters moved the Spirit of God like a mighty wind. God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good. God separated the light from the darkness, calling the light day and the darkness night. And there was evening and morning, the first day. Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, to divide the waters." And so it was. God made the firmament, dividing the waters that were below the firmament from those that were above it. God called the firmament heaven. And there was evening and morning, the second day. Then God said, "Let the waters below the heavens be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear." And so it was. God called the land earth, and the assembled waters seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and all kinds of fruit trees that bear fruits containing their seed." And so it was. The earth brought forth vegetation, every kind of seed-bearing plant, and all kinds of trees that bear fruit containing their seed. God saw that it was good. And there was evening and morning, the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to separate day from night. Let them serve as signs, and for the fixing of seasons, days, and years. Let them serve as lights in the firmament of the heavens to shed light upon the earth." So it was. God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the smaller one to rule the night. And he made the stars. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to shed light upon the earth, to rule the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good, and there was evening and morning, the fourth day. Then God said, "Let the waters abound with life, and above the earth let winged creatures fly below the firmament of the heavens." And so it was. God created the great sea monsters, all kinds of living, swimming creatures with which the waters abound, and all kinds of winged birds. God saw that it was good, and blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening and morning, the fifth day. God said, "Let the earth bring forth all kinds of living creatures, cattle, crawling creatures, and wild animals." And so it was. God made all kinds of wild beasts, every kind of cattle, and every kind of creature crawling on the ground, and God saw that it was good. God said, "Let us make mankind in our image and likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the cattle, over all wild animals, and every creature that crawls on the earth." God created humanity in his image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the cattle, and all the animals that crawl on the earth." God also said, "See, I give you every seed-bearing plant of the earth, and every tree which has seed-bearing fruit to be your food. To every wild animal on the earth, to every bird of the air, and every creature that crawls on the earth and has the breath of life, I give the green plants for food." And so it was. God saw all that he had made was very good, and there was evening and morning the 6th day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished in all their array. On the 6th day God had finished the work he had been doing, and he rested on the 7th day from all the work he had done. God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all his work of creation. This is the story of the heavens and the earth at their creation. Nobody was present when God created the world, and man could not know about it, unless God chose to let him know. He inspired holy men to tell us the great, profound truths of creation in simple, imaginative stories. These stories were written after creation, and were written in a style of writing common at the time of the author. The biblical writer describes God as talking, consulting, and resting. He knew that God did not do these things. God simply willed, and things came into existence. But this manner of telling the story helps us to understand more easily the great truth that God created the world. The 6-day arrangement of creation is a plan the writer used, hoping thereby to impress Jewish people with the holiness of the Sabbath, their day of rest. God rested, so it was right that the Jews rest on the 7th day, the Sabbath. Again, the author had no intention, when speaking of a day, to limit the work of any creative act to 24 hours. He just arranged an orderly way of telling us how the many creatures of this wonderful world came into being. The story of creation is a religious story. It is not about science. Therefore, creation as told in the Bible does not offend against science. It is true, though, that in his creative act, God set masterful forces of science into motion.